What's going on, YouTube? Just got done reading an article on Betsy Devos, and it was titled "Betsy Devos and the Wrong Way to Fix Schools." Those of you who don't know who Betsy DeVos is a candidate for the Secretary of Education position, and of all the candidates, by far, she has the worst track record. She's one of the main pushers behind the state overhaul of schools in Michigan, and being a product of Detroit specifically, I could say that the schools did not prepare us for college. You had some teachers who just didn't care, or you had some teachers who weren't giving it their all. And I can tell you that within 1 year, I've had like 4 different English teachers, because each one would get fired and they bring in a new one, or one would quit, whatever. So Betsy DeVos, her main plan, or the thing that she believes in the most, is she wants the public funding, the funding for public schools, things of that, to go towards charter schools and private schools. Now, this would possibly work if the oversight was there, if someone was there to constantly look over the different developments of different schools and put in laws or push certain bills in certain directions so that certain schools can get better. But as we see, Detroit is a perfect example, as Detroit is one of many cities that takes part in basically a standardized test, where the school seeks to see how much or how less or how little a student is growing, how much information they're learning, blah, blah, blah. Now, after the whole state school overhaul that was backed by many people, but mainly by Miss DeVos, Detroit scores, specifically in math and reading, were declining. They were below average, and by far. Her belief, her love for charter schools doesn't make sense 100%, because if you look at Detroit, one of the cities in the state that she mainly did her work in, Detroit charter schools are almost as bad as the public schools. Yet she believes that charter schools are so much better, have so much more of a push. And after more than a decade getting her way on many statewide educational policies, Michigan is one of 5 states with declining reading scores. And a good example of charter schools that did good work for the state is New Orleans. New Orleans, mainly charter schools down there, but the government oversees the schools, the schoolwork. To start off, when they were just starting this movement of the government overseeing the charter schools and things like that, it was poor. They did poorly because the government did not have oversight. They had minimal oversight in the schools. And so since they've changed that, the schools in New Orleans have actually skyrocketed. They've done much better. They went from a below average schooling system to right around that average mark, and that only took them a little over a decade. They went their test scores, specifically in math and reading, increased by 8 to 15 percentile points. So like I said, they went from close to the bottom of the spectrum of scholastic achievement to an average. Also, their high school graduation rate has increased, their college entry rate has increased, and their number of expulsions, suspensions, dropout rate, things of that, have actually decreased. Now, if you compare the two from Detroit and New Orleans, you see that they have two totally different versions of schooling choice in New Orleans is by far doing much better under the policies. The policies that New Orleans has actually are opposed by DeVos, and this is abundantly clear when you look at the difference between Detroit and New Orleans. But another example would be Louisiana. Louisiana is an opposite approach to New Orleans. New Orleans, where you have the schools, and then the schools are overseen by the government, which allows them to make changes. In Louisiana, the scores are a lot worse. Their test scores have actually dropped 8 to 16 percentile points, and that's just one of the examples of an opposing outlook, as opposed to the New Orleans outlook, where they have the schools and they have the people who oversee them. But to wrap this up, this evidence should create a real problem for DeVos in her confirmation hearings, as the what am I trying to say? The style is totally different. She wants to have a New Orleans style schooling, but as we can see in Detroit, one of the cities that she actually did work in, and Louisiana, it takes that level of oversight. You have to get the government involved, and they have to oversee what's happening in those cities. But fortunately, even if she is confirmed, federal government has little money for education. We all know that, which would limit DeVos's plans. Also, any expansion of unregulated vouchers will require both action of the state government and the Congress. So even if she wanted to make that push with the unregulated vouchers and pushing to get her ideas or her personal beliefs of how a school system should run, she still has to go through the government. She has to go through the state and the Congress. Thanks for watching.